Just let you know, hope all is well and you're getting on with Unit 1 and 2. This is now Unit 3 of your Level 2 MVQ Certificate in Spectator Safety. So again, following the book, following the portfolio, this is obviously now Unit 3. If you do have any issues and still have any issues on Unit 1 and 2, then obviously email us at gnrtraininglimitedltd@gmail.com. We will be having, if we haven't already, webinars where I will be speaking to each of you on a group basis. We can do it on a one-to-one, whatever you require to go through any of these answers. Hopefully you will find this information quite informative, and it's almost as if we're in the classroom. So let's continue obviously with Unit 3. So what's Unit 3 all about? So it's monitor spectators and deal with crowd problems. So in Unit 1 we've dealt with briefings and registrations, everything about you. We're now dealing with Unit 2. Was actually all about how to understand control movements and to recognise it. Now we're actually going to look at monitoring spectators and deal with the problems. So we're going to know how to do this, and also know how to follow instructions and procedures to deal with these crowd problems. Now you will get this from your briefing, but this just gives you an overview of obviously what it's all about. Okay, so what is the importance of monitoring the crowd problems? So why is it important? Because it's your responsibility as a steward, it's your responsibility as an employee of that club to be vigilant and identify issues and potential issues. I'll tell you something now. Had they done this at Hillsborough, had they done this at Bradford, actually had they done this at the majority of places where there would have been problems, chances are, I'm not saying it never would have happened, but chances are they could have actually caught it early. It's up to you to make sure, if you think to yourself, oh actually that's not right, you need to report it up to the supervisor. Get on the emergency telephone. Tell these individuals what's going on, right? This is now we're going to tell you how you do it. So failure to do so could result in serious crowd problems, even as far as injuries or death. There you go. Think of Bradford, think of Hillsborough. Okay. Now just a little bit of observational skills here, just to sort of see where you're at, to see how awareness you are. Okay, do you all know how many passes there was? 12, 13, 14, 10? There it is. I think that says it all there. Easy to miss something that you're not looking for. If you're watching the game, if you're transfixed on one thing, you will not be able to see what the issue with the crowds are. That's why it's important you take a step back. You have an overarching view of everything. Important to walk down the aisles. It's important to do everything along those sort of lines. It enables you to see everything, okay? Don't just look at one thing. So, what sort of things are you going to be looking out for? That's the question. She's going, okay, I can observe that. What do I need to look out for? There you go. Unexpected crowd movements. What are unexpected crowd movements? Unexpected crowd movements would be something along the lines of someone scores a goal and they'll rush down to the front. Or where there's a fight kicking off, for example, and everyone just migrates to that area. That's an unexpected crowd movement. You see it with a surge of people. Local overcrowding. You will get this at half time on the concourse. People waiting at the bar, people at the toilets. That's what's known as local overcrowding. It's classed as local overcrowding rather than overcapacity, which is the next one, because overcapacity means there's too many people in that, regardless of wherever they are. Local overcrowding is in one particular area. What can you do to do that? You can actually, it will go in time. Obviously, people, once they've been to the toilet and the game kicks off, there will be no one on the concourse again. But you can ask them. They can say, go around now. You can actually do something about it. You can deal with local overcrowding. Overcapacity, again, too many people in there. So you're looking for signs of distress. What are signs of distress? Well, we discussed this previously, a little touching this in Unit 2. Signs of distress really are people looking confused, people crying, people getting upset. Think about if you get lost, or think about what would you do if you're panicking. Look at the signs of panicking. That's what distress is. So you see that. That's what you're looking for. So you're looking for unexpected crowd movements, i.e. people moving unexpectedly, surges of people. Local overcrowding. Again, you find that on the concourse. Overcapacity and distress. What you're also looking for, separation of children, groups or individuals. You're looking for unsocial behaviour, unlawful behaviour, and entry into restricted areas. We're going to go through this today, but that's what you're going to be looking for, okay? So, the 3 Ds. What are the 3 Ds? This is a primary example of how to understand and look for issues, okay? So, crowd density refers to the amount of people on one section, known as overcrowding. Crowd dynamics refers to the movement of a crowd. Is the crowd surging? Are they okay? Are they walking slowly? You know, you may have a lot of people, like we saw in the video in Unit 2, you may have a lot of people walking up Wembley Way. That is overcrowding. However, what is the crowd density? Overcrowded, or it's all done with a metre squared, which we're just about to go into in a second. But how's the crowd dynamics? Is there individuals causing issues? No, they were all walking the same way. So dynamics was actually quite good. Okay, so density plus dynamics has the potential for distress. So they are the three Ds. And crowd distress refers to spotting signs that people in the crowd are distressed. So 3 Ds, crowd density, obviously that's a C, density, dynamics could equal distress. Okay, so this is what they say would be classed as overcrowding. So this here is a 1 metre square box and 1 person per square metre. That is an ideal solution if you're watching a football game and or a concert, because it means that you've got loads of room to move around. No one's actually caging you in. However, that's never going to happen because people will never make profits. There you go. So what is the distress there? I would say 0. What's the density? No worries whatsoever. Moves up, it starts getting busier. You now have 2. What's the distress levels? Quite low. What's the density? It's twice as much as what it was last time. But the dynamics, no issues whatsoever. There's not really going to be many issues of people hustling and bustling or anything on those sort of lines. There's up to three people per square metre. Again, look at the dynamics. Are people going to turn around and say, "Oh, you mate, you're stepping on my foot, you're doing this"? Probably not, because a metre squared is actually quite big. When we do the scenarios, you'll actually see how big a metre square is, and we'll actually put 2-3 people in there. You can actually see it from that perspective. 4. Now, 4 people per square metre is actually classed as a legitimate amount of people. So if you imagine 4 people each standing in each corner, that would be classed as an ideal solution for the density. That's the ideal gauge on it. Okay. Now we're looking at 5. Now we're starting to get into the aspect of density getting a lot bigger. What's the dynamics in that crowd? Well, obviously in that picture they're just standing there, but what's the dynamics in that crowd? The dynamics is very, very simple. It's all down to whether or not people are hustling and busting and stepping on each other's toes and all that type of thing, all right? So then obviously that way then, if you put them 2 together, you'll see distress. I'm going to show you a video now that will hopefully do this. This was actually done in the Oasis concert in Manchester, and you'll actually see crowd surging. You'll actually see density. I mean, as you can see from here, this picture, that is 5 or 6 in a square metre. Can you see the surging? This is where everyone's moving forward. This is the sort of thing you need to look for when you're working as a steward. You can't do anything about that. They are just so rammy packed. However, I'd like you to think that, same as me, that is actually overcrowded. That is obviously very, very dangerous. That is obviously, if someone falls down, there's going to be issues. There you go. This is crowd movements. Yeah, there's the wave of people. So it's moving backwards and forwards. You cannot, because the density is so big, is so much, 5, 6 in a metre square. It has a knock-on effect. Once one person goes or one section goes, the rest of them have to go, as you can see from now. So these people moving forward, they're actually doing it involuntary. Someone is moving from behind where they are, so probably around here. This is where it starts, and it almost goes like a domino effect. That's because the density. If that density was 2 or 3 people, that wouldn't happen. But this is where it gets overcrowded. This is overcrowded. Now that was what it was all about, or what it was like in terms of density for the Hillsborough disaster. Just far, far too many people. There you go, here's this big surge. See that big wave? There you go. Now she popped the barrier. The security actually fell back. That's too dense. That is too dense. So, obviously the signs of distress that you're going to see there, I think it's going to be quite a lot, because chances are you'll get people that are going to go with the flow. You'll get people to go, oh. So you need to be very, very careful and looking at that. That to me, everything's changed since then, because I think this was in 2005, and a lot has changed since then. And that's as we are now, 2019. That's 14 years ago. They now control numbers, so obviously it's a lot different. So how do you identify these problems? Well, unless you have the opportunity to watch it on CCTV like that, you obviously have to use your eyes. Okay. So what sort of things you need to look at for movement, overcrowding, overcapacity? You got to watch for body language of individuals within the crowd. Are they panicking? Are they putting their hands up, or are they trying to protect themselves? Look for signs of distress, pushing, swaying, forward motion, as in that video. Anyone looking around as if they need help from a steward. You'll find people will be like meerkats. They'll be looking around going, oh, I don't like it, I don't like it. They're the individuals you need to be looking out for, okay? That's why it's important that you monitor your crowd. On spotting a crowd problem, you should carry out a dynamic risk assessment. What's a dynamic risk assessment? Well, there's the bottom there. It says continuously assessing a situation to ensure risks are quickly recognised, assessed and responded to. So, rather than wait for that problem to happen, excuse me, rather than waiting for that problem to happen, look at it. You can actually see people that are distressed. Try and speak to them first. Try and, if it's getting overcrowded, report it to your supervisor. I'm not saying open a barrier and let them through. That's not what I'm saying, because obviously that has to come from your supervisor. You do not have the power to do that. However, obviously unless it's an emergency, but if there's overcrowding, you must go to your supervisor. Report everything to your supervisor. Everything should go to your supervisor and/or the control room. Number 5, something attracts your attention as a hazard. It could be a barrier. People get pushed up on the barriers. Identify who may be harmed by the hazard and how. So if you see a hazard, who's going to get harmed? Well, the crowd. It's inevitable. And evaluate the risk and decide on controls or precautions. Can you deal with it? Can you deal with it by moving someone out of the way? If you can't, again, report to your supervisor. Let them take that responsibility. Okay. So general strategies is being visible at all times to the crowd. If someone, like I said before, I said this in Unit 2, and I'll repeat it now. If someone sees a high-vis, orange, yellow, green, whatever colour it may be, they see that as authority. That provides reassurance by being there. If someone's doing something untoward or someone's doing something bad, seeing a high-vis jacket, 9 times out of 10 they may stop doing it. But again, if someone's in signs of distress and they see a high-vis jacket, they see that as a sign of safety. That's why you're there. Reassuring and warning people. When would you reassure someone? If it's getting busy, don't worry, the crowds will go in a minute. I know, it's just work with it, just be easy. That's reassuring. Warning people. Come on, mate, let's go. Move forward. Please don't do that. Please don't stop. That's what reassurance is, keeping them okay. Warning is telling them obviously to do something. Contain an incident or a crowd. This is where you put up a cordon. For use at remember on Unit 2, a cordon would be you'd get your colleagues. Your supervisor may say to you, right, I want you to cordon that off. That's where you would shut that off by human. Rather than putting a barrier in, remember, a cordon is a human cordon. You would remove people, obstacles or hazards. Okay, the biggest one, removing people. For example, in that video we just saw at Oasis, the best option would have been to start removing people. It's getting people out, making the density move down. You can't really necessarily get rid of obstacles and hazards. If something is a barriers there, or something that's movable, then yes, it may be possible to move it. But a wall, it's not possible. And then, obviously, record your findings. Make sure you make a note of it. This could be to tell your supervisor straight away. What you should be doing is writing this stuff down, because it all adds that little bit of weight to it, and you may get asked for it, and obviously people may forget. However, if you report to your supervisor, that's how you basically record it. Okay, so remember, serious instances, you must report. Stewards, you've got to wait for instructions and then follow them to the letter. You cannot make that decision to do that. Unless it's an emergency or it's a matter of life and death, then okay. But in all cases, you must go to your supervisor and or pick up the emergency telephone and speak to the control room and tell them what's going on. Using things like overcrowding, density. Use the 3Ds, because these individuals will understand what you're saying. Contingency plans designed to ensure the safety of staff and the customers. So a contingency plan could be this. They've got people in certain sections, but they know they've got spare seats somewhere else. They might move a section of people around there. A turnstile servicing a certain area. If a turnstile over the other side or next to it can service the same area, even though the tickets may not work, they may say, can you put those individuals in that turnstile? That will then prevent overcrowding at the turnstiles. Another one you may come across, toilets at half time. There'll be people queuing up at the toilets. If you know that there's toilets elsewhere, send them round now. Try and disperse as many as possible. That's a contingency plan. But do not rush into a situation without knowing what has happened. You must know. We'll talk about this in conflict management, talk about this in dynamic risk assessment. This is Unit 5. But don't go rushing into these places. If you see an issue, do not go rushing in until you know what's happening. Because you don't know. You may be walking into something that is very, very bad. If you do go in, please don't go in without backup, because even though you may be a high-vis jacket on, I've been in situations and seen situations where people have gone in and they literally, the crowd just swallows them up. The crowd will go in and just go round. You actually can't see the high-vis jacket. Do not become isolated from other colleagues. You don't know what the situation is. The situation could be a fight. The situation could be something where there's people moving towards the pitch, for example. If you are in that situation, you become isolated. Nobody knows where you are or who you are. Everyone knows where you are. And do not attempt to deal with a situation if you're not trained for. If you're not trained to deal with a fight, don't jump in. If you don't have an SIA badge and you're just a steward and someone's fighting, best not to jump in. The best thing that you can do is report it to your supervisor or pass it on to the people that you know can deal with it. By doing all those do nots, that could put you in harm's way, and that's not what we're here for. How do you deal with separation of children, groups, or individuals? Okay, so someone comes up to you and says they've lost a child or a vulnerable adult. Get as much information as possible. What sort of information do you need to know? The name, height, where they were last seen, what they're wearing, what their clothing is. However, when you have this information, do not be vocal about it. Please do this in a quiet area, because if someone knows there's a lost child somewhere and they have a description of that person, I'm not going to explain what can happen, but I'm sure you may think so. When someone tells you they've lost their child or vulnerable person, vulnerable includes elderly, people that have disabilities, or people that may be intoxicated. That would be classed as vulnerable. Vulnerability means they do not know what's necessarily going on around them, or they don't understand that sort of situation. Make sure you have these information, okay? The reason being is because it's the best thing to do. So where you've got in there is name, gender, ethnicity. Again, keep it quiet. Pass this information to the event control using the emergency phone or the supervisor. But when you're speaking emergency phone, everyone that's ever seen an emergency phone in the scenarios, you'll see the emergency phones, and I'll highlight it. Cup your hand. Do not shout it out loud. Whisper it around for that exact same reason. Stay with the parent or guardian in the same location for 5 minutes. Why that's important is because a child may walk off. He or she may think, oh, that's where I was last time. So you wait for the parents, but provide reassurance. Do not say, well, we're going to find your child, because you can't guarantee that. However, what you should be saying is, the control room there, we've got CCTV, we've got the whole stadium looking for them. There's been times before, especially on school trips, that I know of, where someone said they've lost a child and they've actually shut the place down. No one's allowed in and out. Okay, so to provide that reassurance. After 5 minutes, take to the venue designated area. That could be a first aid point, that could be a customer service point, that could be the control room, that could be absolutely anywhere. Again, you must know this information from the briefing, okay? I'll tell you this as a parent, and for you that are parents. If someone says, if I lost my children, and I have the steward there, and I want to know that they're doing everything they can, and that person cannot tell me where cannot tell me where the designated area is, they cannot do that. That does not look good, okay? At event control will commence seek and search with obviously colleagues. So what they do, they put it out on the radio, they'll inform everybody that this is obviously what we need to find, okay? So the more information, the better. So what happens if a steward locates this lost child. Remember, you've got this information. I'm sure a parent will probably turn around and say they've lost their child quicker than a child will go up to a steward and say, I've lost my mummy or daddy, or whoever that person may be. Okay, so if you find, as a steward, you locate a child or vulnerable person, summon a colleague immediately. There must be 2 persons present. And the reason for that is purely simply it offers more reassurance for the child. Secondly, if you've got 2 people there, it provides that added bit of protection. Okay? Immediately inform event control via the supervisor. Ask for CCTV coverage. So what that basically means is tell them your location. Get the cameras on them. Okay? Get the cameras on you. Them cameras need to be on you. They'll be watching you all times. That child is priority. That child is priority. I cannot stress that enough. And I say that as a parent. Remain in a position for at least 5 minutes. And the reason being, because obviously that parent, if that guardian or parent has not gone to a steward, they will then be looking around. Okay, so if you're remaining in situ in a place for 5 minutes, you've got more opportunity of that parent and or guardian finding you. Okay. And once that happens, you do not move. You just await further instructions from the safety officer and or your supervisor. It'll be your supervisor it'll be the safety officer via your supervisor. But you remain in that position. Do not move. Your priority in that situation is that child. Okay. So that's that. So that hopefully is the bit of a section obviously in the portfolio. We're now going to move on to the other bits of sections there. Unsociable behaviour. What is unsociable behaviour? It's standing in front of others to block their view. Maybe not intentionally. People don't necessarily do that intentionally, but nonetheless, you're standing in front of someone is standing in front of another spectator. That spectator then comes to you and says, I can't see that person standing in front of me. Alternatively, you see it. That's unsociable behaviour. Swearing. And we know it happens at football matches. We know it happens at events. Doesn't mean that it's acceptable. Okay, it's an unsociable behaviour. Queue jumping. Oh, I don't know where to start with this. Queue jumping is my worst bugbear. People that jump queues, I do not like that. If people can't wait in queues, I don't like waiting in queues. So if I have to, then other people do have to as well. Okay, that's unsociable behaviour. And sitting in the wrong seats. They may have a legitimate reason why that person may be sitting there. However, that person has a ticket to sit at a seat. They must sit at that seat. Afterwards, they can always say, oh, do you mind if I swap seats? Like on an aeroplane. If you have a ticket to sit on that plane, the reason why you have that ticket is because something happens, they know who that person is. They've got your next of kin details, and they've also got your passport number. Now, if you move without people knowing that you've moved, then obviously the repercussions and issues that could be with that. Furthermore, I would like to say that if that is the situation, and that is the case, then people will always say, well, that person's sitting in my seat. And I'll guarantee you, most people just want to sit in their seat that they've got, regardless it could be a bad position or not, but they've paid for that seat, that's what they want to do it. So what are the procedures for dealing with unsociable behaviour? General strategies, again, being visible at all times. Remember standing there, reassuring and warning people, containing an incident or a crowd, removing people, obstacles or hazards. I'll get into a little steer now as we're going through this. If you're looking at Unit 3, you can actually see these questions with some numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 I think it is. I don't have it in front of me, but from memory. So this is what you would do, general strategies. You circle 1, you circle 2, you circle whatever you believe is that answer, based upon obviously what we're going through here now. Now can you see the reasons of these slides? This is why we're going through it. It all fits in with the portfolio. Again, any issues, GNR Training, ltd@gmail.com. Right, unlawful behaviour. Well, unsociable behaviour is that. Unlawful behaviour is against the law. So, persistent standing. Remember, you cannot persistently stand in a stadium. I know people do it, but they're actually breaking the law. Drinking in view of the pitch. You cannot have alcohol in the stands. Hate crimes, racist chanting, displaying racist signs or posters. The FA now and UEFA are cracking up massively on this. There's a lot of chanting, a lot of racist chanting. Violent behaviour, fighting, basically. Smoking inside venues is unlawful behaviour. Pitch incursions, it's illegal. You're not allowed to run onto the pitch. Simple. Drugs offences and bringing flares and pyros in. Yes, you could say that people meant to do the searching at the turnstiles. However, the only thing you can search is obviously jackets and outer body on a search. But what people do, they will hide them in certain places where they know people won't search, because that way then they can bring them in. So it's not always possible to find stuff. Unlawful behaviour, so general strategies again. Remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever numbers are. Be invisible all times. If someone's doing something untoward, you be invisible in a high-vis jacket, 9 times out of 10 will maybe stop them, potentially, because I'm being watched. Reassuring, warning people. This is down to warning people. Come mate, you can't do that, can't do this, stop doing this, stop smoking, whatever it may be. Contain an incident or a crowd. If people are fighting, you want to try and separate people. People that don't want to fight, people that do want to fight. And removing people, corpses and hazards. There you go. Same like general strategies. So, in summary, when it comes to this, okay, you've got to be looking at this. When dealing with crowd problems, get help from other stewards. Keep calm and inform your supervisor or control. Facts. That's what you do. Remain calm, tell your supervisor. General strategies will always be invisible, reassuring or warning, containing incident or crowd, removing people, obstacles or hazards. I was done dynamic risk assessment, which we'll go through. Hopefully now you'll understand where that section 3 comes in. Sorry, unit 3, where that little section bit comes in with questions. Okay. Again, you've got any questions or any issues, we can speak about this on the webinar. Alternatively, give us an email. A little bit of a video. It's actually quite funny, to be fair. There you go. Cheers, Gareth. You've done well there. So that is now Unit 3 covered. Hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into obviously what it's all about and what Unit 3 is there. Information. Again, any issues, contact myself or Kelly via email, gnrtrainingltdlimited@gmail.com, as it is there. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you on the webinar if I haven't already seen you. And Unit 4, 5 and 6 will be out very soon. Cheers.